automobile
It seems
and the
that
power
almost
behind
everybody
it
in
and the
this
major
country has
factors.
one of oil supplies still underground.
We can drive anywhere we want.
Eugene was a United States postal carrier in Dallas for 36 years. That particular day, the heat index was 119 degrees. So just imagine how hot it was. He passed out in one of the homeowners' yard, but it was the heat that actually killed my husband. The summer now in Dallas is not like it was 20 years ago.
This summer was the hottest we have ever recorded on Earth, and that's because of the climate crisis. The biggest cause of all of this is fossil fuels.
I had a particular patient, very healthy, very active. He came to our ER with 105 temp. He ended up with brain damage, and he actually passed a few days later.
The heat affects everyone in the community. It doesn't discriminate.
My husband was healthy. He was a healthy 66-year-old. Step up to the plate and make some changes.
Thank you. It's quite a powerful one, that, isn't it? Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Harrison, and I work at Global Witness. And for those of you who don't know us, we are a campaigns organisation, and we are working to try to get accountability for the industries that are driving the climate crisis. No surprises, that includes the fossil fuel industry, which, as most of you will know, is the biggest driver overall. Now, obviously, we can't put a dollar figure, a monetary value on human lives, like those of Eugene Gates, who died of extreme heat. But one of the things that we are calling for is for oil and gas companies to be made to pay to cover some of the costs of extreme weather. And that is, frankly, because we don't think that the rest of us should be made to pick up that tab when, our homes get wiped out in storms or our farms are unviable because of droughts. So the video that you've just seen, that was part of a campaign we ran in the US last year to try to drum up a bit more support for a bill that was working its way through Congress at the time. The bill was it was designed to force the fossil fuel industry to pay into a federal fund that would help cover some of the costs of climate breakdown. Sorry, I'm trying to... Here we go. In that video, you saw flashes of this gas sign which we produced. Anyone who is familiar with America will know that Americans obsess over the cost of petrol. And as that video hopefully helped make clear, something that we were trying to do was to play on that controversy by showing that actually the cost of fossil fuels is so much higher than you might think. So we pulled official data on the number of people who have lost their lives to extreme heat in the US. The numbers that you can see here, really conservative estimate, by the way. We also, however, we wanted to bring the fossil fuel majors more into the picture here. So we tried to find out how many more lives are going to be lost to extreme heat if the big five, by which I mean BP, Shell, Chevron, Exxon, and Total, if those 5 companies get to produce as much oil and gas as they plan to between now and 2050, and we found that the emissions from burning those fossil fuels would result in an additional 11.5 million people dying of extreme heat this century. So that's 11.5 million, and that is a death toll that you can pin to just 5 companies due to heat alone. So we aren't talking about all of the lives that would be lost in floods or storms or because there isn't enough food to eat. And we also aren't talking about companies like, Saudi Aramco, the really big state-owned enterprises. This is just those 5 companies, and this is just extreme heat. When we were making the video, we spoke to loads of people like Carla, who had lost loved ones in the States to heat. And one of the things that we were really struck by was, most people had no idea that the fossil fuel industry had anything to do with extreme heat. So we hooked the video to a digital campaign that we ran, which meant that with the click of a button, US citizens could write to their senator to ask them to support that polluter pays bill that I mentioned at the beginning. This is Senator Merkley. He was a sponsor of that bill. This is a quote that he gave us to use in the press outreach for the campaign. A few months later, Donald Trump is re-elected, and it won't surprise you to hear that that bill died a death in Congress, and we're not going to see anything like that anytime soon at the federal level. But similar laws have been passed at the state level in New York and Vermont, and they are being debated in state legislatures around the country, including in California, where we are working with partners there in a kind of a similar way to drum up more support for that bill. We are campaigning on this in the UK too, so we're working with MPs from across parties to try to put more pressure on the UK government to hike taxes on oil and gas companies to help cover some of the costs of climate breakdown. This is actually a really popular idea in the UK. We carried out a poll which was published in The Guardian last month, and it showed a very clear majority of Brits want to see oil and gas companies made to pay to cover some of the costs of climate action. And this is where you come in. If this is something you agree with, we would love it if you would sign our Polluter Pays Pact. You can access it via the QR code here. This is an initiative we have just launched with Greenpeace and a number of other NGOs, including Oxfam and others. It is a global pledge calling on governments to make polluters pay for climate breakdown. We would love it if you would add your signature and spread the word. I've exceeded my time, I can see here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm around if anyone has questions.